Welcome back. We've got, I would say, a bit of a special episode today. So, when this episode drops, it will be the day before my 45th birthday. So, I turned 45 March 2nd. And I don't know, for me, there's something about this particular birthday. Maybe it's where I'm at right now at this stage of my life, at this point in my life. But it feels like a special one. And more so, really, from an internal perspective, from the perspective of personal growth, from the perspective of really sort of how I feel about myself, how I feel in my own skin, how I feel as I show up to my own life. And so, what I wanted to share with you today are simply 10 life lessons from my 45th birthday. So, as I'm on the brink of turning 45 years old, I want to share with you, what I've learned about showing up powerfully to my own life. And this has certainly shifted and this has certainly changed for me. I would say I'm a much more authentic version of myself in my 40s than I have ever been in my entire life. Certainly, I think for most women in particular, we go through a lot of changes in our 20s and 30s. And for a lot of the women, even that I've worked with personally, I have found that there's something about aging. If we choose to age gracefully, and if we choose to age, I like to use the term age powerfully, it can really shift the way that we show up to our own life. So, without further ado, and in completely random order, I want to share with you 10 life lessons that have had a profound impact on who I am today. So, the first one is this: I really believe that how we feel on the inside radiates on the outside. So, how whatever we're carrying when it comes to our emotional state, how we feel about ourselves, what we believe about our worth, for example, how we feel on the inside, in a lot of ways, I believe precedes us. How we feel actually walks into the room before we even do. What we believe about ourselves, how we carry our own self worth, our own self image. And we're going to talk about that even more today as I go through these 10 life lessons. But I really, really have come to understand in a whole different way that what I carry on the inside about who I am shows on the outside. It absolutely shows, and if we're consistently doing the deeper work, if we're consistently really tuning in and refining and challenging those parts of ourselves that really require healing and growth, I really believe what we find is a more radiant version of ourselves on the outside. So, how we feel on the inside absolutely shows and it can radiate on the outside. And so when I think about the process of aging, which I think for a lot of women is not a process that we have been taught to embrace. I want to suggest that perhaps where we really want to focus our attention when it comes to aging powerfully is what's going on the inside, and listen, I love a good, blowout and good curl in my hair. And I have a skincare routine and makeup that I love using and wearing. I love fashion. There's so many things about the external appearance that bring me joy and are ways that I choose to express myself. But what I've learned, I think, more than anything else, as I really sort of land right in the middle of my 40s, is that investing in what is going on the inside is really what radiates on the outside. So that's number one. How you feel on the inside radiates on the outside. Number two is, and again, these are in random order, guys. So number two is I've learned that honesty with others, openness with others, being authentic with others really does start when we are honest with ourselves. So, what do I mean by this? So often you'll hear me talk about, and I train and coach a lot on the importance of having open, and honest conversations, showing up as your most authentic self, not hiding, feelings, thoughts, boundaries that might be uncomfortable for others, not changing yourself, not becoming a chameleon in order to please others. I talk about these sorts of concepts a lot. And what I've learned in my 40s is that in order to have the courage to be able to be honest with others, in order to have the courage and the integrity to have those difficult conversations, it really does start with being really honest with yourself. And as I think about the last few years in my 40s, as I think about coming up onto 45, I think one of the areas where I have um, really challenged myself to be more honest is around saying no to things that I really don't want to do. That was like a huge growing edge for me, and I'm actually going to talk about that a little bit more in number 3, but this was one of these areas where I had to be really honest with myself and pause long enough to ask myself, Shamala, is this something that you really want to do? Is this a project that you want to invest in? Is this a dinner that you want to attend? Is this a friendship even that you actually want to invest in? Are you responding proactively to the opportunities and the requests that are made of you? Or are you simply reacting? Are you simply reacting out of a place where you feel obligated to say yes? And so that's just an example from my own life where that honesty with myself really started with me asking myself honestly if, when a request is made, and it could be something small. Like I said, it could be dinner with friends, or it could be, a collaboration or a new project or whatever it is. But when a request is made, I've learned to slow down, really check in and be honest with myself around, is this a yes for me or is this a no for me? And then from that place, having the courage, having the integrity to be honest with those around me. People don't always like those no's. People don't always like um how we show up when we decide to be that radically honest. But that is certainly one of my life lessons from turning 45. Number 3 sort of piggybacks on number 2 for me anyway. And it's this idea that I have really embraced in this past year, probably more than any other time in my life, is that no is the most profound and powerful statement that I have learned to make. And yes, my friends, no is a complete sentence. No is a complete statement. But the ability to embrace no as a profound and powerful statement in my own life has been incredibly freeing. Like, I can't even tell you how much emotional energy it has freed up for me. I can't even begin to tell you how much time in my calendar it has freed up for me. It has allowed me to say yes to the things that I really want to say yes to. And sometimes saying no allows me to say yes to rest, or it allows me to say yes to downtime, or it allows me to say yes to that book that I've been wanting to read for so long, but I've been putting off because I've been saying yeses to things that I really didn't want to say yes to. So for me, number 2 and 3 really do go together, but I've learned at 45 that no is the most profound and powerful statement that I have learned to make. And when I'm able to make that statement powerfully, I'm able to say yes even more powerfully to my own life. Number 4, I think as I was writing these, there must have been some logical sequence to me coming up with these, because as I'm sharing them with you now, I'm realizing that there is a bit of flow here. Because number 4 really does connect with number 3. So if no is the most profound and powerful statement that I've learned to make, in number 4 life lesson, I've also learned that, you know what? I am okay with people not liking me. I'm okay with people not agreeing with me. And I have become okay with people not supporting my decisions. And listen, this comes to you from a recovering people pleaser, someone that would have a really, really hard time with the idea of disappointing another person, the idea of letting another person down, idea that someone might not like me or may speak ill of me or speak negatively about me or speak badly about me, might gossip about me behind my back, that would be enough for me to be manipulated into doing what that person wanted. That's who I was for my 20s for sure, and probably much of my 30s. This really started to shift for me, I would say, in my late 30s and into my 40s. So at 45, my friends, life lesson number 4 is I am okay. I am embracing the idea that not everybody is going to like me, that many people will not agree with me, and there are many, many, many people that will not support my decisions. And that's all okay. Okay, number 5. Again, I'm really beginning to see how these are all connected. Number 5 is a powerful realization that I think really, um, I would say I began to integrate. I always knew this was true. I always knew this was true, especially from my background when I was practicing therapy for so many years. I always knew this truth, but I believe I really integrated this into my own life in the last probably 2 years. In the last 2 years, I've really integrated and owned that good or bad, I choose, create, and craft my reality. It's on me. Whether the outcomes in my life or the results in my life are the ones that I had hoped for, whether the outcomes or the results in my life are the exact opposite of what I have hoped for, I understand on a very deep level that it is on me. I take complete responsibility. And again, this ties into number 6. I'm seeing that on my list here, but I take complete responsibility for the fact that I choose, create, and craft my reality, the reality that I sit in today. In this moment, as I sort of look ahead to 45, I chose it. I created it. I crafted it through my daily choices and not just choices and behaviors and actions, but also choices in my thoughts. I have absolutely created and crafted my reality by the choices that I have made. Number 6, life lesson number 6, again, really ties into life lesson number 5. And it is that I am wholly responsible for my life and my results. And again, this comes from someone who really got stuck in the blame game, that someone who was very defensive growing up. I was someone who, if things didn't go my way, I was always looking for reasons outside of myself or external to myself to explain why things were not going the way that I wanted, why I wasn't getting the results that I wanted, why my business wasn't growing the way that I wanted it to, or why my relationships weren't going the way that I wanted them to do. I was sort of trained, if you will, to have this perspective where my power really was lying outside of me. And one of the biggest shifts that I've made, again, probably like really in an integrative way in the last couple of years, but it has been quite a journey in getting here, is taking whole and radical responsibility for my entire life and my entire results. The moment I stopped shifting responsibility and blame onto external circumstances and onto other people is when I really began to fully step into my power. And this is a work in progress. This is something that I continue to work at every single day. Number 7, this one brings a smile to my face because life lesson number 7 for me was one that not only did I not grow up with this belief, but I probably grew up with the opposite belief. And like so many women that I work with, I think that this life lesson number 7 was a bit of a taboo. It was something that we just didn't do. And number 7 for me is boundaries are the most important part of any relationship. I believe that so wholeheartedly in my 40s that I am actually no longer available and no longer willing to be in a boundary-less relationship. I'm no longer available for that reality. I'm no longer available for those dynamics. I'm not available for working relationships. I'm not available for friendships. I'm not available for family relationships that don't have boundaries. It doesn't feel safe to me anymore. They do not feel generative. I don't feel like I've got the freedom to expand and to show up and to contribute in those types of relationships. So, one of the lessons that has really, again, it's funny because as I'm sharing these lessons, I'm recognizing that these are concepts that have percolated for me easily over the last 2 decades, probably since the time I was about 25. Every single thing I'm sharing with you today has percolated, has been there. I've been working through it. I've been working with it. I've been trying it on. I've been integrating it at different levels of myself, my life, my being. But I think at this stage of my life, I don't know what it is, friends, but there's something about 45 that really feels like, all right, Shyamala, it's time to shit or get off the pot. Like you're either going to show up fully and powerfully and really show up to your own life or just don't do it. Don't half-ass it. Like don't go into this lukewarm. And so this is number 7, life lesson number 7 is one that I stand by. Like you cannot convince me otherwise. Boundaries, my friends, are the most important part of any relationship. And I deeply believe that a relationship without boundaries is actually lacking. It's lacking richness. It is lacking depth. It is lacking authenticity. It is lacking intimacy. It is lacking freedom. Boundary-less relationships are a thing of the past for me. I am here for all the boundaries because boundaries are beautiful. All right, number 8. Oh, this one is really important to me too. I feel like all of these are really important. I came up with these yesterday before I was recording. So as I'm looking back, I'm feeling them even more deeply today as I share this episode with you. I really feel this one, number 8, and it really came. I think this one really landed in a deeper way as I began to grow my psychotherapy team. We have a team of about usually at any point 8 to 10 clinicians that work at our psychotherapy clinic. Amazing clinicians, and as I have been training these clinicians and as I've been working with these clinicians, what I've really learned is life lesson number 8. And it's this: your energy in the world is far more important than your credentials. Your energy in the world is far more important than the letters behind your name, the letters in front of your name, whatever credentials you have. Listen, I value education. Very, very much so. I grew up, with very strong messaging around the importance of education. I have quite a bit of education. I have, all kinds of different letters behind my name. I have some letters in front of my name. I value the meaning behind every single credential that I have earned. There's lots of value there. So please hear that piece of it. But what I have learned, what differentiates us when it comes to capacity, what differentiates us when it comes to contribution, what differentiates us when it comes to leadership, when it comes to, professional and personal legacy in this world, our mission in this world, what differentiates us is not the number of letters behind our name. It is not our credentials, my friends. It is 100% our energy. It is 100% our energy. I could, do a whole teaching on this, and maybe I will. Maybe I will. But what I want you to know is there is research, there is evidence behind this particular life lesson for me. And so when I say it's a life lesson, I knew the research, I knew the evidence, I knew the science behind this. but I really came to understand it in the last few years as I started growing a team, as I started training clinicians, and I could see a marked difference between clinicians that showed up powerfully to their practice, clinicians that showed up with confidence, clinicians that were really able to hold their space and have that energy in their presence, and those that didn't. And the fascinating thing for me was, especially because one of my specialties is training new clinicians, newer clinicians, is the credentials were the same. The credentials, the experience, the education, they were the same. But the difference between some of the clinicians that I personally trained that had massive success and those that were really struggling came back to their energy, how they showed up, who they were when they showed up to their work, to their mission, to their clients, to their practice. That is far more important than our credentials. Number 9, oh gosh, these really do tie into one another. So, life lesson number 9 for me, I love this one. And I'll share with you what it is in a moment. But let me share with you first. I want you to know something about me if you don't know this about me already. I was a kid, and even through my 20s, even when I was doing my master's, and even a bit when I was doing my doctorate. So this is how far into my career this went. I was hugely afraid of public speaking. I would never have even considered doing a podcast. I would never have considered showing up live and on video, and in the media and on stages back in the day when we were on stages all the time. I would never in a million years have considered taking those risks because I was so deathly afraid of public speaking. I was so afraid of using my voice. I was so afraid of being seen and being heard and all of those sorts of things. It's a massive fear that I have overcome in my life. And as I share with you life lesson number 9, I'm recognizing right now in this moment that it's this life lesson partly that allowed me to overcome this fear. And here's what it is, it's the idea that who you are, speaks louder than what you say. Who you embody, who you are at your core, who you are when you show up, who you are when you give a speech, who you are when you're teaching, who you are when you're coaching, who you are when you're training, who you are when you're mentoring or when you're parenting or when you're at dinner with your partner. Who you are speaks so much louder than what you say. And when I was really able to embrace and take hold of this particular life lesson, I realized that it's okay if I stumble on my words. It's okay if I'm not perfectly articulate every single time. It's okay if I actually mess up and say the wrong thing. All of that is okay. Because here's the thing, people connect to who you are, not what you say. The words that we use, the language that we use, the message, of course, needs to be accurate. Of course, we need to be speaking and teaching and showing up in integrity. I'm not denying that. But who you are when you show up is so much more important than what you say. And when I was really able to embrace this truth, this is what allowed me to show up live a lot more often. This is what allowed me to, when I do interviews for the media, I don't have my questions ahead of time. I don't prep ahead of time. This is what allows me to show up powerfully in those spaces, is embracing the idea that who I am when I show up, doing the deeper work, working on my subconscious, really challenging those limiting beliefs, all of the work that I have committed my life to, not only doing myself, but to teaching others, contributes to who I am. And who I am will always trump what I say. The energy in which I show up, the integrity, the courage in which I show up will always, always trump what I say. So, life lesson number 9 for me has been a profoundly freeing lesson that has allowed me to show up far more powerfully to my own life. And it's that who we are speaks louder than what we say. Number 10. I'm so excited to share number 10 with you. So excited to share it. In fact, that I'm actually going to do the next episode. I'm actually going to go deeper on life lesson number 10. So, life lesson number 10 for me, and this is a life lesson, not just a business lesson, but life lesson number 10 is business growth will always parallel personal growth. In other words, my capacity for professional, business, financial growth and success will always match my self image. So, my business will never grow beyond my personal capacity. My income will never grow beyond my personal capacity. My contribution in this world, my mission in this world will never grow beyond my personal capacity. So, if you are like me and you have a massive mission in this world, if you are like me and you desire to give more and to have more and to contribute more to the world, if you are like me and you desire to leave the world better than how you found it, I want you to know that the greatest investment that you can make in your business is actually in your personal growth. It is in your personal growth. It's when I started to double down and triple down and quadruple down on my own personal growth. It's when I really started to show up powerfully to my own life, when I really started to get honest with myself, when I really started to integrate all of the life lessons that I shared with you today. That's when my businesses, both of them, began to grow. That's when my vision for my businesses began to grow. That's when I was able to dream bigger. That's when I was able to lead with confidence. That's when I was able to take these risks and actually see them as opportunities for more contribution. So, business growth, my friends, will always parallel personal growth. And there you have it. 10 life lessons from a 45-year-old badass, if I can call myself that. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, you're going to want to tune in to next week's episode where I go deeper on number 10. I really talk more in that episode on how our capacity for growth really will never, our capacity for business growth will never exceed our capacity for personal growth. So if you're interested in that, tune into next week's episode. As well, I want to let you know that in a few weeks, we have a special masterclass, live masterclass that I am teaching completely free. And it's specifically for coaches, clinicians, and entrepreneurs. So if something in today's message really resonated for you, I think this is going to be the perfect master class for you. This is a teaching all about how to amplify your impact and your income without overthinking and overworking. It's happening on March 22nd, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We are going to link up the link to actually register for that class. Even if you can't attend live, we will send the replay out for you. But inside of this training, I'm going to be teaching you about the science behind reprogramming your mind and why you might want to actually do that and how it can have a profound effect, a profound impact on your ability to achieve success, regardless of how you define success. So, if you're interested in even more of this kind of teaching and even more of this kind of training, you are going to want to register for that masterclass. All right, friends, thanks so much for hanging out, and I will see you next time.